Amid a raging blizzard on the frontier, a giant of a man who had lived in solitude for 36 years suddenly heard a knock on his door in the middle of the night. He opened it, and standing before him was a shivering little girl, soaked to the bone, whispering words that turned his world upside down. "They beat my mother. Please, help her." In that instant, Jonah's long-buried past came roaring back. From this moment forward, he would be swept into the most dangerous journey of his life. In this video, you will see how a man who had chosen silence was forced to become an unwilling hero facing the storm, ruthless enemies, and deadly secrets hidden in the frontier. Trust me, you will not guess what happens next. And before we begin, make sure to like, share, and hit that subscribe button, because this adventure is only just getting started. Jonah pulled his sheepskin coat tight and pushed into the blizzard. Every step sank deep into the frozen ground. Harlan Creek was nearly 1 mile away, or about 1.5 kilometers, but he did not hesitate. Tonight was not the night to slow down. At last, the crooked shack came into view, its roof torn, windows dark. Jonah shoved the door open. The hinges screeched. Damp rot and cheap liquor hit his face. In the corner, Rebecca Lane, her face black and blue, wrists and ankles still marked by ropes. The sight made Jonah's fists clench so hard, his arms trembled. She lifted her eyes, voice barely a whisper. "You should not have come. They will ruin you." But Jonah only said, "Let them try." Then he bent down, lifted her as if she were no heavier than a broken branch. Rebecca did not resist, only breathed weakly, her head falling against his chest. Back at the cabin, Ellie ran forward, crying out, "Mama!" Her eyes lit up when she saw her mother in Jonah's arms. He laid Rebecca on the only bed, then silently lit a fire, boiled water, tore cloth for bandages. The same hands that had once known only chopping wood now carefully wiped away blood, as though holding the most precious thing left in the world. But just as the cabin filled with firelight, a strange sound echoed from the edge of the forest, like footsteps crunching in the snow. Jonah lifted his head, eyes darkening. He knew the one who had caused this to might already be coming. In the town of Ash Mesa, Clark Lane, drunk and furious, shouted in the saloon, "Hail! Stole my wife! He took Rebecca to his bed." The men erupted, some jeering, some egging him on. The rumour spread like wildfire through the frozen town. But inside the cabin there was another world. Rebecca lay on the bed, her breath slowly steadying. Ellie sat close by, her young eyes watching Jonah as he chopped wood, cooked porridge, then awkwardly carved a small wooden horse. When he handed it to her, the child hugged it tight, her smile breaking through for the first time since the storm. Rebecca saw it all. She lowered her face, knowing the town would soon call her a fallen woman. That shame burned hotter than her bruises. Yet here, inside this cabin, she felt something undeniable. Safety. Jonah knew as well. From the moment he carried Rebecca out of that shack, he had taken on the weight of everything to come. Each day, the look in Ellie's eyes only tightened his resolve. Then, the sound of hooves echoed across the frozen prairie. Jonah looked out the window, the fire in his eyes flaring. Someone was coming. In Ash Mesa, every time Jonah appeared, the stairs clung to him, men muttering, women pausing their sewing, children pointing. He wore silence like armour. But inside the cabin, it was different. The sound of Ellie's laughter, Rebecca humming softly. Those sounds tore through the loneliness the town would never understand. One Sunday morning, the church bells rang out. Jonah decided to take them. Rebecca trembled. "They will stare." Jonah answered simply, "Let them." Not. When the three stepped inside, conversation died. Eyes burned into them. Reverend Harland only paused for a moment before continuing his sermon. But after the service, Martha Riggs intercepted them, her voice sugary and false. "My dear, it would be better for you to go back to your relatives." Rebecca froze. Jonah only stepped forward, eyes like steel. The crowd went silent. Riggs swallowed hard, then slipped away. That night by the fire, Rebecca whispered, "I have brought ruin to you." Jonah replied slowly, "I do not seek forgiveness. I seek peace." But at that very moment outside the cabin, hoofbeats thundered, stopping right at the door. The air froze. Someone had come. Snow kept falling, and with it grew the shadow of Clark Lane. In the saloon he roared, "Rebecca is still mine. Jonah is only keeping her for me." The crowd bangs the tables, fueling his rage. The sheriff tried to calm him, but Clark only spat on the floor, his bloodshot eyes blazing. The grim news soon reached Rebecca. She trembled, gasping, "He will come. He will never stop." Jonah clenched his fists, replying cold and steady, "Let him come." The words chilled her, yet she clung to them like a lifeline. That night, Ellie whispered, "You will not let him hurt Mama again, will you?" Jonah pulled her close, his voice hard as iron. "As long as I draw breath, he will never lay a hand on her." The child pressed her cheek against his chest and fell asleep. Rebecca watched, tears falling silently. But peace never lasts. The next afternoon, a note was nailed to the door. "She is mine. Bring her out, or I will come with men and drag her away." Jonah crushed the paper, fire blazing in his eyes. For the first time in many years, the lonely man prepared for a fight he could not avoid. The wind howled like a wild beast clawing at the prairie. Jonah felt the storm before the sky even darkened. He locked the barn, tightened every rope, the cabin behind him standing like the last stronghold in a sea of snow. Inside, Rebecca's hands shook as she barred the door and gathered food. Ellie clutched the wooden horse, pressing against her mother every time the wind wailed. By evening, the storm battered the walls like a giant fist. Jonah stepped in, his coat white with snow. His eyes quietly scanned the two by the fire. Rebecca whispered, "Do you think he will come, even in this storm?" Jonah answered, "If his anger burns hot enough, not even the storm will stop him." The night dragged on. Jonah paced from door to window, his shadow cast tall across the cabin walls. Rebecca watched him, then softly began to sing a lullaby. Jonah froze, listening a fleeting moment of family he had never known. Then, through the howling wind, hoofbeats struck. Lanterns flickered in the white. Jonah's hand went to his gun. Rebecca pulled Ellie close against her chest. The door rattled violently. This time, it was not the wind. Someone was right outside. Jonah peered through a crack. In the blizzard, 4 horses loomed, lanterns swinging. A voice he knew too well bellowed, "Clark Lane." He turned back, his words short and firm. "Take the child into the back room. Do not open the door unless you hear my voice." Rebecca wanted to protest, but his steel gaze silenced her. Outside, fists pounded on the door. "You stole my wife, Hale. Bring her out, or I will drag her out myself." Silence answered. Jonah raised his rifle, lifted the lantern, and slid the bar aside. Wind and snow burst in. He stepped onto the porch, his massive frame etched against the white. Clark roared, "She is mine. Tonight I will teach you your place." Jonah set down the lantern, his voice booming over the storm. "She was never yours." The words struck like a hammer. Clark screamed and spurred his horse. 2 men leapt down, charging. Jonah stood firm as stone, blows slamming into him, his fists crushing back. One man crumpled, the other staggered away. Inside, Rebecca clutched her child, hearing every crash and struggle outside. Her heart trembled, but burned with hope. Then Clark leapt from his horse, fury blazing. And that was only the beginning of the final fight. The blizzard raged, snow ripping the air apart. On the porch, Jonah Hale and Clark Lane collided. Clark swung wildly, screaming, "She is mine! She has always been mine!" But Jonah stood like a wall, every counterpunch falling heavy as a hammer. His voice thundered, "She belongs to no one. She belongs to herself." Clark faltered, then fought even more madly. Jonah grabbed his collar, slammed him into the post, blood spraying against the snow. Clark gasped, "Kill me!" "That is what they all believe you will do." Jonah's fist lifted high. But just then, from inside the cabin, Ellie's trembling voice rose. "Mama, is he gone yet?" That small sound cut through the storm, pulling Jonah back from the edge. He lowered his hand. Jonah hauled Clark onto his horse, pressing the cold barrel of his gun to his chest. "At dawn I hand him to the sheriff. If he ever comes back, not even a storm will save him." The men turned pale, dragging Clark away into the white. Inside, Ellie threw her arms around Jonah. "You saved my mama." Rebecca watched, tears streaming not of shame anymore, but of hope. The prairie gleamed silver in the sunrise. Jonah spoke softly. "This is only the beginning. If you believe this story deserves to be shared, make sure to like, share, and hit that subscribe button so you will not miss the next chapter of this journey."